Are we losing our minds, or are we evolving? What if the chaos in the world isn't the end of something, but the upgrade? What if the table flipping, the systems crumbling, the emotional intensity isn't proof that something is wrong, but proof that something is shifting? Bianca Harris channels the Galactic Federation of Light, and today on New Reality Awakening, she shares what they're saying about collapse, disclosure, and why distraction is the real trap. She also talks about Galactic Awakening, channeling the Galactic Federation of Light, and what it actually means to evolve beyond this 3D consciousness. We explore density clearing, internal versus external focus, and why the real shift isn't happening out there, it's happening within you. If you felt like reality itself is glitching lately, well, this conversation might offer you some much-needed context. Welcome to New Reality Awakening, where seekers become finders and stories become transformations. Each week we open the doorway to a new vibration, sharing wisdom, healing, and awakening from the visionaries of the New Reality TV platform. This is your gateway to raising your vibration and remembering who you truly are. This is where we remember that we are consciousness discovering itself. We are love awakening to love. We are New Reality Awakening. Hey there, welcome to New Reality Awakening, the show where we go straight to the source. Each episode, I sit down with the creators behind New Reality TV to cut through the noise and get clear on three things: what they're putting out into the world, why it actually matters right now, and how it connects to the bigger shifts happening in human consciousness. These are focused, no-fluff conversations, not origin myths, not guru speak, just real people doing meaningful work and the ideas behind it. If you're curious about where consciousness, culture, and personal responsibility intersect, you are in the right place. Today, we are super fortunate to be joined by Bianca Harris, who is the creator behind Evolving Beyond the 3D. We have so much to talk about, so I just want to get right into welcoming you, Bianca. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share here today.
Wow, got a lot to share. You are a relatively new content partner to New Reality TV. So my very first question has to be around why? Why did you want to be part of New Reality TV? Why is it so important right now?
Yeah, this is a great question because actually, for anyone that understands my show and what I'm about, I have been sharing my own experiences, and that's been like a real calling for me to just speak to that. But what I love is to be able to be part of something even bigger, whereby we can all come together and share lots of experiences, lots of, ways to kind of navigate this, what we're experiencing. And yeah, I'm really happy to be a part of that.
Awesome. Well, then let's get right into your show because you teased it a little bit. If people know about your show, well, what if the people who are tuning in right now don't know about your show? Give us a little rundown about what Evolving Beyond the 3D is.
Yeah, so I, maybe 2 years ago had this rapid awakening, and it's what I call a galactic awakening. So most people kind of know what it is to tune into spirit guides, and that's kind of familiar. I'm quite comfortable with angels and this kind of thing. But galactic beings, wow, okay, that's unusual. Or maybe it's less and less.
It is less and less, I'd say, but still kind of wild.
Yeah, and it definitely was for me. And my experience of what I've been going through on a personal level and how my life has changed and what I'm accessing and able to share has been so wild and rapid that I've really kind of created that into the show. So I share my experiences, what it means to connect with galactic beings and, how to establish that for yourself, and also share a lot of channelings and what I'm seeing in terms of the guidance I'm getting through around what we're experiencing right now in terms of this shift of humanity and the wild experiences that we're all going
Right.
through wherever you live.
Right. Well, let me back it up a little bit because I think you buried the lead. When you're talking about galactic consciousnesses,
Hmm.
they're actually coming through you, right? You are
Yeah.
channeling these galactic consciousnesses, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. That is right. So I have access to them all the time. So they can just pop in and have a little chat. It's like having a radio to my galactic team, which is really
So
awesome.
no privacy at all then, huh?
Yeah, I mean they're quite boundaried, but yeah, they do
Oh.
pop in anytime. And but then what I do when I want to bring through like a more significant and more deep message, which I began doing for myself, but now has led me to bringing more collective messages through, is I actually allow myself to drop back, in my body, if you like. It's hard to explain, and then they speak through me, and those become longer, more powerful, incredible transmissions that I actually listen back to and take a lot of wisdom from myself.
Sure. It's like me doing these shows. I listen back to all the shows and I go, wow, that was really smart. Not what I said, of course, what the guest is saying. So is there any particular type of galactic consciousness coming through you, or are they just all, it's like the United Nations of the galaxy coming through you, Bianca?
Yeah, so I experience that I channel what they explain to me is myself or an aspect of myself, because in the context of galactic beings, there is no linear time. That's a human construct. So I'm channeling myself as an Arcturian who is part of the Galactic Federation of Light. So I channel the Galactic Federation of Light, but specifically the Arcturians. So they come through me when I'm in that deep channel. But I channel a lot of beings, so they're my deep connection. And often when I bring longer transmissions, it's those beings. But I also bring through many different beings. I have connections from Andromeda. Lyrans are very, very strong in terms of my connection. And, sometimes they surprise me with other different beings from time to time as well.
Wow. When this first started happening to you, did you take it well? I mean, I would think that I might have been losing my mind or something.
Exactly. No, and this is why I felt so keen to share it. It felt really important because when this began happening to me, I did think, what is happening? I was actually in the bath trying to meditate and bring my higher self forwards, quite not really that complex a thing that you'd think you'd be doing. And then I'm bringing through a blue being, and I'm seeing a blue being as clear as day. It's right in front of me. And they spoke to me on that day and they said, you've signed up for this connection and you understand this on a soul level.
You signed up for it, did you?
Apparently so. Yeah. I signed up to publicly share this stuff. And yeah, it's been wild since then. And I just accepted that connection. So they were very, this is where they're very conscious it's not a forced thing. I had to accept that connection. I had to accept the invitation, and I took that invitation, and I'm so glad I did, because it's been an incredible ride since.
That's amazing. Is there any particular messages that keep coming through you? There must be a reason why these galactic consciousnesses decided to start coming through you all of a sudden.
And I don't think it is just unique to me. I think there's a lot of people out there that are starting to, if they've not already, wake up to these connections. If you have that maybe soul connection, it will start to be established. And this is the time. So the key thing that comes through. So 2 years ago, I was channeling that this time we're about to go into, and I think we're in it, to be honest, would feel like chaos. And they speak to that. They speak to the crumbling and the falling away of the old. So that's been really helpful to understand in the context of what we're seeing in the world. Because if you look at what's going on out there, it feels like the whole table's been flipped upside down and we're watching some kind of, soap opera. It feels crazy. But
it does.
It does. And they've shared with me, like, this is actually perfect. And this is really helpful, because otherwise you look at it and you think something's wrong, but in fact it's not. What they speak to is that this is what the show's about. This experience that we're in is elevating beyond a third dimension into higher dimensional experiences. And in order to go there, which essentially just means that we are more tapped into our multidimensional self and more heart-centered, heart-based as individuals and a collective society, that the constructs of society that are based around control, power, all of the things that aren't necessarily for our highest good will start to fall away. and new will be born as part of that. So many of those many of the people here that have got these connections and start to open up to their personal wisdom, and all of us have access to this actually, will be part of that shift and helping to build the new structures, the infrastructure of the fifth dimensional Earth that we're moving on to, which is amazing.
Just brings up a question that I've often asked myself, because I feel like you. This is the year of the fire horse, so we're upending the tables, like you mentioned, and it is very uncomfortable for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
But a large part of me is guiding myself or others to become a spectator, for lack of a better term. Don't get caught up in all of it because it is perfect. At least that's what the messages that we're receiving is, right? It is the perfect time. Things are happening in perfect order and everything's going to be for the best.
Yes.
But when you're in the deep of it, like when the Epstein files got released and all this stuff is happening around the world, it's hard not to be personally connected emotionally to all this stuff. So how do you manage to keep yourself at a distance and yet not feel like you're not doing something about it?
Yeah, it's a brilliant question. And it feels so illogical to us as human beings. But this is where the guidance is so powerful. And that's why I bring it also onto the show, because they very much clearly state the way through is through the self, which is about, understanding the external context is not necessarily, does not have to represent your internal context. And when you shift internally, and it's always about coming back to the self, you can then allow that chaos to unfold around you, but you can stay really firm and center in where you're heading. And they speak a lot about, making sure that you're focused on what's within your control, what's within your gift, because what this experience wants us to do to hold us in the third dimensional reality is to distract us with the chaos so that we live in fear and anxiety. But when we can come back and we just breathe, come back to that center point, they show it me like that, like almost like a center line, just coming back to the self and then moving forward from that place, always guided by the heart. No matter what's going on in your external environment, you're untouchable at that point if you're not dragged into the chaos that's unfolding on the external reality.
Right. Wow. So it's a matter of, what's that, the cliche, if you want to change the world, you start with changing yourself. Right? Look at yourself in the mirror and then move in that direction. It's a great message, sometimes difficult to adhere to, but important. Are there any other messages that are coming through that you feel are really key to speak to at this time?
I'm getting a real nudge to say as well that this stuff sounds really simple, like you said, and they describe it in such a simplistic way, but also remembering that we are human and we are learning to move through these experiences. And a key part of this, and I've definitely had my own baptism of fire in this experience, is in order for us to move through on a physical level as human beings, so we're elevating all the time, if you think about that chaos and the density that is being cleared from an external perspective, that's also going on inside us. So you might be feeling like, why suddenly is this stuff coming up that happened to me 10 years ago? Or why do I feel a certain way and I don't understand why? Because as we evolve into this new dimension that we're going into, our bodies have to be able to hold the light that comes from that evolved experience. And to get there, we have to clear a lot of the density in the body. And that's all the stored emotion, all of the feelings. So, if you're kind of thinking, all right, this all sounds beautiful, but then reality is, I feel like a lot is going on for me on an inner perspective. That's exactly right. Because in order to move through, we have to allow those experiences, those feelings to come up and through us, because they describe it like, almost like clearing out a box, clearing out the cupboard. The only way to clear that is through the self. So allowing it. Yeah.
It feels like we've gone through a period of time in the world where our solution was just to tamp it down, to repress it, don't think about it, and you get through it, smile and bear it. Yeah. And now it's coming to light that that's the absolute worst thing you can do, right? It's what you're supposed to do is experience it and release it, let it pass through you versus hang on to it. So I've got to ask this question because I know people that have experienced what you are experiencing when you have these things coming through you. And sometimes you think that you are losing your mind. And other times you're thinking, am I making all this up? Is it just my imagination? How did you come to grips with the fact that it was not just your imagination?
It's a great question. And there are, at the beginning, definitely there was those experiences for me. I'm wondering, like, can this really be truth? But I think really I started to be guided to other people. So once I started to open up, my sort of star family arrived, if you like. Other people who had similar connections or experiences gave me that validation of my experience. And that links to why I'm here speaking, about this, because it's important that we are not feeling like we're on our own, because we're really not. And also, as it's gone on and as I've developed this relationship, because it's really a relationship with I call them my Galactic team, I trust it. I begin to trust it more and more, over time, until at this point it's completely undeniable to me. Maybe at the beginning I could have wondered about it. Now it's undeniable, the physical experiences, the way my experience has changed and my life has changed through the teachings that I've brought through from my teams. And, if I don't, I almost can't not follow it now. My soul is that connected and understanding what this is about. I know it's truth on a deep level. So, that truth is kind of more present than any kind of fear or doubt that might sometimes rise.
Right. That's amazing. So speaking of that, there's different types of channeling. There's conscious channeling, there's subconscious, or what's the term?
Trance channeling.
Trance channeling, right? There's all these different types of, how does it come through for you?
So I channel audibly. So my audio is really, really strong. So most of the time it comes through audibly. So I'll hear things. So for example, if I'm working, so I work as a multidimensional mentor, and when I'm in that place, I get messages all the time just through my audio from my team. But I also drop back. And when I drop back, that's more like trance channeling, where I bring the information through my body. And so I'm less aware of what is going on. I'm kind of in the background. Sometimes I hear it, like I pique interest in certain things that are said as they're speaking through me, but I generally don't remember the majority of what I've said. I have to listen back to it. So there are two types of ways I channel. But I also channel, kind of like shamanically as well sometimes. So I go into the quantum realm and then I'm taken places and I see things. And those are really wild experiences. I've been on like trips around certain places with angels, or sometimes I go on the ship with my galactic family, and those are incredible. So yeah, it's not really one way, but my most prominent gift is to hear my guides.
That's amazing. Now, I've watched your show, so I know the answer to this question, but when you do channel, do you change physically? Does your voice change? How does that, what can someone expect when they watch your show?
Yeah. So I think if you knew me really well, you'd say my voice does change. But it's not, I don't have a viscerally different experience in my body. But I tend to know when I watch myself back in channel, like my head will turn to a certain angle when I'm speaking in channel. And, the words I would use wouldn't be the same. Like there's certain words that just wouldn't come out of my mouth when I'm speaking. So it is, I'm kind of fortunate in a way that it's just not very dramatic. It's quite subtle, but you can feel that difference. And actually, when people are in the room with me where I channel, people feel a difference in the energy. So it almost like the energy goes clear. And that's really the energetic difference. It is really palpable.
Ooh, I just got goosebumps. That's amazing. That's something I hope to experience at some point. So when you hear it auditorily, when it comes through you and you're just saying what they're saying to you, what you're hearing, it must be incredibly distracting, right? They're talking to you and you're just repeating what they're saying. It's almost like Cyrano de Bergerac kind of thing, where wait, what'd you say again? That kind of thing, or it just becomes a clear channel?
It's really interesting to me because over time it's just integrated into my system. So, and also it will only switch on when I'm open to it. So if I don't really want to be hearing that, I'll drop it back. But if I'm open to it and the person's open to it, also if somebody invites them. So the other day I was out at a networking event and somebody was speaking about my guides who'd worked with me to somebody else and they just bowled straight in. So it's like, that's an open invitation. to speak to my team. And then they're like, oh yeah, I'd love that. And they just come in. And then I hear it differently. So I know when it's my mind and I know when it's them. So it comes from a different part of my, it's hard to explain, but it's kind of like in a different part of my head.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I won't ask your team to come forward because that would be rude. But if they happen to have a message, by all means, let them, feel free. But so I'm super curious. You have access to galactic consciousness. You have access to Arcturians and Lyrans and Andromedans and oh my. What are their thoughts on disclosure? When are they going to make themselves known to humanity at large?
Well, they sort of smile and they've just passed this on to me to say that this is kind of disclosure in a form, right? right now, which is a good point. But I think it is something that will come. I've definitely heard that from them, but they don't like to give, and I really think this is authentic as well. They don't like to give timelines because timelines are concurrent. So it really depends on our own choices as to whether they, are more prevalent in our society. And if we can handle as a society that truth, overall. But they're here, they're present as they're present through me. And they are guiding us from the outside, which maybe is in the unseen. Their role really is to support humanity in this evolution. And their messages is we are doing a fantastic job. Like they are literally in awe of this experience.
Really?
For them, it's so hard to understand how we're doing this because they're not here. They're not human and they don't have this human experience. So to witness that and the human emotion and still be able to hold these frequencies is pretty impressive from their perspective.
That's amazing because everything inside me would have said that they're probably really frustrated with us because it's taken us so darn long to get to where we're supposed to be getting. I mean, we're here 2,000 years and we're still futzing around, right?
No, I don't think that at all. And sometimes, so they come through me and the messages they give me on my personal self, the next steps for me and what they draw into my experience. Sometimes it's very intense. Like the speed this is going is incredibly rapid for my human, for my human self. And sometimes they say to me, we actually forget that you're human. Sometimes it's difficult for them to understand how to work in the density that we experience because they don't experience that same density. So they're still learning as well. That's the thing. We kind of put them sometimes on as humans, we tend to put them on some kind of pedestal as some wisdom, guided beings. But they're actually learning with us, and they speak a lot about being beside us and hand in hand. That's important.
Bianca, that hurts my heart. I really thought we had like the masters helping us along, but we're
well,
just
they say
hands.
we're the masters. We are the masters.
Oh no, we're in trouble. Wow, that's crazy. It completely flips everything on its head. That's the exact opposite of what we've heard in the past.
Yeah.
So your show is evolving beyond 3D. We are currently very firmly entrenched in the 3D world, but we are now trying to evolve beyond that. And I would assume the galactic consciousnesses are beyond that, right?
Yeah.
So what does that look like? How do we transcend? And do we bypass the 4D into the 5D? Do we go to the 7D? I heard that there's like 7,000 Ds. Where are we going when we evolve beyond 3D?
I think it's hard to know, right? Because actually the potential is most likely infinite. There's probably timelines where we go well beyond the fourth and the fifth dimension. But I think right now we can ground into that movement from the third to the fourth. And I think a lot of us are in that bridging as we move into the fifth, that fifth dimension being more heart-centered, more, guided by a higher dimensional self, a more evolved and understanding being of we live in more harmony. And I think as we go up through the dimensions, what they explain to me is like we just become more at one with one another because we're all part of the same. And that's what they explain. When we're in the lower densities, we've got more of an individual experience, individual and collective experience. As we go up, we become more collective in our approach. So, that's a very complex thing to understand, but we're embodied in our human body. So there's so far we can go physically embodied. So we'll be embodied as fifth dimensional beings as we evolve. And many of us are, we're bridging that. And who knows, we might be able to go further and further.
Wow, exciting times.
Mm.
So is your show something that people have to watch from the very beginning? Can they jump in the middle? What's the best way to binge your show?
Yeah, I feel like you can just jump in anywhere. And I do it, when I record it, I record what's alive in me because that's just how I work as a channel. So it has to be what comes through and feels good to share. So you can kind of watch any order. But really, if you want to understand like my awakening journey, the first episode explains that in a bit more detail. So it would give you a bit more of a flavor of like how this happened, or how did I get to this point and what I'm bringing through. And then, there's live channeling episodes and episodes where I speak about my journey and what this evolution looks like as a human, as well. So yeah, binge it
Yeah,
anyway.
and sometimes you bring people on as a guest, yeah?
Exactly, yeah. So as I continue to bring through episodes, I'll bring guests along. I brought in my second episode, actually, a galactic astrologer. She's called Louise Platt. And she was sharing what she's seeing astrologically and how that aligns to what I've been channeling, which was a beautiful episode and so validating for both of us, to be bringing the same information, just different ways of accessing that wisdom. So yeah, beautiful, those collaborations.
So why does this show need to exist now? Why is it so important?
Yeah, it's important because, what I've been very much guided by my team to say is that it feels like things are falling apart to a lot of people, if you're waking up or you're already awakened on a journey, you might start to understand the reason for this. But generally, the population probably thinks something is wrong. And I think they really want to make sure that it's clear that there is nothing wrong. And in fact, in order to help us to evolve or move up, into higher experiences that we all really want to be having, we can have some support with that. And so this guidance and my experiences is, from my perspective, what I hope will help other people going through similar things, whether it's galactic awakenings or whether it's just rapid life changes that feel a bit out of control. But actually, when you surrender to it and you realize that there's a much bigger piece at play here, and we are part of that, each of us, we play a role. We can let go of some of the fear and the anxiety that some of the chaos is creating, and remember where we're going is infinitely better.
Infinitely better. I love that.
Yeah.
So are there any misconceptions that people tend to have about you or your work that you want to take a chance to clear up right now?
Yeah, I would probably say one of the biggest misconceptions is that because I'm bringing through these beings, and it relates to this hierarchy, which I think sometimes exists, that I am some way accessing more than everybody else. I am not. I am simply accessing something that we all have access to. I just seem to have tapped into that at this point, but it's not unique to me. This is an experience that a lot of people are going to start having, and over time will become more prevalent in society. So really, this is just another person experiencing this. So I really don't like the idea that we put these beings or anyone that's bringing through channeled information really on any kind of pedestal, because we all have that access, and that's really important. And also we all have an individual experience. So they speak to me about that as well. There's a lot of things out there, people saying about timelines, and you need to be at a certain point. Nobody is getting left behind in this experience. And in fact, they want to tell us all the time is that we want to kind of get away from looking to the future, because when we're in the present and we're in joy in the moment now, that's how we embody the fifth dimensional experience. It's not further away from us, it's within us, and we have access to it at any given moment. It's a choice of where we put our intention and awareness. So yeah, that's usually, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because people usually think when you're evolving beyond 3D, you're going out there, you're evolving out there, but really it's the opposite, right? You're evolving within. That's powerful.
Yeah.
If someone wanted to start channeling or be more in touch with this type of information, what's one thing that they could do right now to start them on that journey?
The number one thing I experience when people ask me this, or people say that they can't connect, is actually, well, I would say it was two things. First thing is creating space for it. Because when you're in the busy mind and you're just rushing around every day, that connection, it's harder to establish it. You can't hear it because you're too busy. You're not creating the space. So the first thing is to create the space. And the second thing is to trust and surrender it, surrender to it, and understand that you are able to do this, and maybe it will come through you in another way. And actually, one of the episodes that I have on Evolving Beyond 3D speaks to this. There's no perfect way to bring this information through. So actually, if you're trying to follow what somebody else is doing, you probably won't access it. So just experiment and play with it, but then trust when you start. If you start automatic writing, or you start bringing something through verbally, or maybe you channel some art, like whatever it is, but trust that is actually the process rather than needing that validation, because there is no validation. You just know it's truth. You have to trust that.
Every path is unique, and the best way forward is to find your own, maybe find inspiration in someone else's path, but know that that path is not going to be exactly the same for you. You need to find your own unique path. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that is the kind of work that we like to spotlight here, not because it has all the answers, but because it asks better questions and invites real engagement. If this conversation sparked something for you, you can explore more of Bianca's work on New Reality TV. Her show is Evolving Beyond 3D. And if you're someone who's curious about consciousness, growth, and where personal responsibility actually meets spiritual exploration, this is what we do here. Bianca, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for listening. We will see you next time on New Reality Awakening.